The real reason for this New York Knicks controversial move has been revealed as the Knicks made one of the biggest moves of the NBA offseason in 2025 thus far, and now we know why they decided to hire Mike Brown, and also we have further updates on Mike Brown's assistant coaching staff that will be joining him and why there is one specific guy who the Knicks and Mike Brown really want to bring in on this staff, and we're going to break all of this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. If you guys are part of that percentage that's not subscribed to Knicks Digest, we have the latest and greatest New York Knicks updates every single day. We got multiple videos coming at you every day at this point of the offseason. You do not want to miss out on all the great content. Let's jump into it because it's been revealed why Leon Rose, James Dolan, William Wesley, and the front office opted to make their controversial head coaching hiring in Mike Brown. Mike Brown has a lot of fans split. There were some options that it felt like it was going to be almost entirely possible. One of the main ones positive, I should say, one of them being Taylor Jenkins. And he was a very possible candidate for the Knicks as they did interview Jenkins throughout this process as well. However, Mike Brown quickly emerged as the favorite, and there are a few different reasons for why this is, and now we know everything behind this. As James Edwards revealed that the two-time NBA Coach of the Year was the only candidate the Knicks ended up bringing back for a second interview. It was a patient search that featured multiple twists and turns. New York's front office, led by Leon Rose, reached out to employed head coaches like Houston's Ime Udoka and Dallas's Jason Kidd, assistant coaches like Minnesota's Mike Inori, Dallas's Sean Sweeney, and New Orleans's James Borrego, recently fired head coaches like Brown and Taylor Jenkins, and even held a conversation with South Carolina women's basketball coach Dawn Staley. Rose & Co., according to league sources, didn't feel rushed to make a hire since the Knicks were the only team with a vacancy for the head coaching position. Now, the reason because of this was, frankly, usually we see there be more of a coaching carousel, but Leon Rose didn't feel the pressure because the only other team that fired their head coach was the Phoenix Suns, who quickly hired Jordan Ott early on into the process. Now, initially, it felt like Johnny Bryant was a sure thing for the Knicks. I sure thought he was. I heard that James Dolan liked Johnny Bryant specifically and did want the Knicks to bring Bryant in. However, that did not ever end up happening. The Knicks didn't even end up interviewing Johnny Bryant, so he's sort of moved on from that list. Meanwhile, when it comes to the Knicks, the two-time Coach of the Year was that only candidate, and New York went into the initial stages of the hiring process with Mike Brown's name circled. The Knicks liked Brown's extensive resume and the fact that he's worn many hats in the NBA. Brown's willingness to collaborate and the leadership qualities the franchise examined were also big selling points, according to sources familiar with the situation. And the Knicks offense, while it finished the regular season with the fifth best rating in the NBA, it was a bit deceiving. Things started hot for New York on that end of the floor until around the top of the calendar year, when teams started regularly guarding Towns with smaller athletic wings and putting their centers on Josh Hart. The Knicks offense, despite all of its firepower in the starting lineup, ranked just 16th from January 1st until the end of the regular season. Brunson did miss a month due to injury in March. And in the postseason, veteran-laden New York struggled with the up-and-coming injured Detroit Pistons in the first round of the playoffs. In the second round against the Boston Celtics, the Knicks found themselves down by 20 points late in both games 1 and 2 before pulling off a miraculous comeback wins, I should say, that helped them eventually take down the defending NBA champions. Now, yes, Tom Thibodeau does deserve credit for this. He deserves credit for the Knicks getting to the conference finals after all. He was a big part of the team pulling that off. But does he deserve all the credit in the world? The sun is in my eyes right now. That's why I'm blinking like crazy. But when it comes down to it, the Knicks did struggle, and Tom Thibodeau specifically struggled himself. There were problems that this Knicks team had, and there was coaching issues. Basically, the blown timeout against the Pistons, the lack of in-game adjustments until very late in games quite often. On top of that, we just saw the Knicks miss out on some stuff because of the way that Tom Thibodeau coached the team, and now they enter in with Mike Brown as this team's head coach. Mike Brown, according to Tommy Beer, during his final full season in Sacramento, the 2023-24 season, the Kings finished in the top half of the NBA in defensive rating and in pace, meaning the most possessions possible. Brown had a deep rotation as well. 13 different Kings appeared in more than 40 games, and 11 different Kings averaged more than 12 minutes per game for that season. So Brown did dig deeper in his bench like the Knicks were asking for. On top of that, in the 2022-23 season, the Kings finished with the 8th best net rating in the NBA. The first time in more than 15 years that they cracked the top 10, and they used a deep rotation. 11 players averaged double digits in minutes, and 15 players appeared in 25-plus games. We saw him get active. We saw the Sacramento Kings in that year where they did make the playoffs for the first time as a 4 seed. They had a 119.4 offensive rating, the best one in basketball. Now, yes, the Knicks were right there as well, but the Knicks had a bunch more talent on that team, including 2 All-Stars, or not really because Brunson didn't make it, but 2 All-Star level players in Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. Brunson, who kept ascending into superstardom once we saw playoff Brunson. On top of that, the Kings were 4th in assists on that season as well. This same season, the Knicks, they were 28th despite having a great offensive rating. That means that the team had way more offensive potential. The Knicks have a much better offensive team this year around compared to 2023, so clearly things will get better for the Knicks as well when it comes to the ball movement, something that is very much stressed with both Mike Brown and James Borrego, who we are going to talk about in a little bit. On top of that, the Kings did have the best true shooting in basketball. The quick passing, the body movement, all of it led to things going really, really well for the Sacramento Kings, and the Knicks are a much more talented offensive team than the Kings were. Now, looking at all this, Mike Brown battled through some of the same maddening averages while in Sacramento, but the personnel around De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis wasn't what you'd conceive to optimal offense. Brown also coached the Kings to the league's best offense and one of the 10th highest offensive ratings ever during the 2022-23 campaign. The ball and body movement principles he's become known for largely since he spent time as an assistant with the Golden State Warriors should serve the current version of the Knicks extremely well. Brown's teams generally have players finishing more often off cuts and operating in faster clips. During his first 2 seasons at the helm in Sacramento, the offense ranked 3rd and 5th, respectively, in transition frequency. New York had not placed inside the top 10 of any time spent throughout that break in decades. Brown's offensive pacing spills into the half court too. Through the 2022-23 first and the 23-24 6th, the Kings finished near the top of the league in average possession time, according to Unpredictable. Meanwhile, the last year's Knicks were dead last in the same category. This is going to be a completely different New York Knicks team. They're going to look different. And, I mean, it's very clear that they saw a vision. This team had a vision. They wanted to go out there. They wanted to make the offense better. They wanted to see this be an offensive team based off their 2 best players being Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. It makes sense to make an offensive team that the Knicks have with individually good defensive players instead of what Tom Thibodeau was doing, which was having a good defensive team with individually good offensive players. The Knicks' good defensive players are two-way players. The Knicks' bad defensive players are elite offensive players. So it's not like you could sort of flip things around. You need this to be an offensively focused team when your 2 best players are Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. If you don't do that, the way that Tibbs did not do that, you are going to have a ceiling on your team. Having Mike Brown come in, a guy who's an elite offensive coach, should be able to prevent the same ceiling happening. Now, yes, there is a cap on the defense, but this is a team that has a limitless offense, and Tom Thibodeau coached a team with a limited defense despite being a defensive head coach because of the player personnel. Mike Brown is clearly better for the personnel than Thibodeau is, and we're going to see that happen. So it's important to look at all these things, and especially regarding Thibodeau, as Stefan Bondy mentioned, in a new coach, the Knicks are prioritizing some of the issues that led to Thibodeau's dismissal. They are emphasizing player development, expanding their rotation, empowering the staff, collaborating with the front office, and assigning roles to assistants like defensive and offensive coordinators. Thibodeau didn't embrace these instructions from the front office, and ownership but did plenty of winning in that time. Now, in regards to Tibbs, he was adamant that nobody was going to run his offense for him. He didn't want coordinators the way that Mike Brown seems very open and willing to do so. Thibodeau did not listen to the front office when they tried to tell him to start Mitchell Robinson earlier on. Tibbs said, no, it's my team. I'm going to coach it my way. And the front office was like, all right, whatever. We're not going to stop you, but we damn well might fire you if this thing does not work out perfectly for us. And it didn't. The Knicks didn't go to the NBA Finals, and a lot of it was based off the fact that the Knicks ran a rotation that did not work. And Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal, OG, Cat, it did not work. So what did we see? We saw Tom Thibodeau effectively bury his own, or dig his own grave, I should say, because he decided to not listen to the front office. Something Brown is going to do. Now, do we necessarily want our coach to take all their cues from the front office? No, probably not. However, it does just depend on that healthy medium. If we get it, good. If we don't get it, then that is going to be an issue for the Knicks moving forwards that we will have to pay attention to. But we do have to just approach this with optimism, especially considering the Knicks want an offensive coordinator on this team in James Borrego, and Mike Brown does agree with that. Now, Mike Brown would still be the head of the offense, obviously, but Borrego would be at his side as the associate head coach. And it was mentioned by Bondi that it's unclear yet who the Knicks will tap for Brown's assistant staff, but Rick Brunson will undoubtedly return to the bench. Other assistants from last season are under contract, and according to a source, will be considered by Brown as well. James Borrego is being targeted as the associate head coach, according to a source, but requires permission to get out of his contract with the Pelicans. The Pelicans would be justified in rejecting Borrego's request, since a potential move to the Knicks is technically lateral. Even if it's for more money, generally teams grant permission to get out of a contract if the next being offered is a promotion. Borrego is already the associate head coach of the Pelicans, so this would be a lateral move, meaning that it is less likely that Borrego gets out. However, Borrego would likely try to ask them, can you let me get out? This is a winning team. They're offering me more money. It's a more optimal situation for me, because if Willie Green gets fired, there's a good chance I lose my job too. And Mike Brown's not getting fired. The Knicks are hiring him today. So I do think the Knicks will be able to get Borrego out of the Pelicans. I just think it will cost a second-round pick, and I'm completely fine with them doing that. However, it is very clear why the Knicks hired Mike Brown at the end of the day. They wanted a new optimized offense with a coach that would listen to the front office and would use a deeper lineup and make more in-game adjustments that are positive and run an actual offense to this team and build around a style that actually benefits off this roster, instead of a style that this roster is going to be having a ceiling at because of two of the starters being non-defenders in Brunson and Towns. Meanwhile, they want Borrego in there because the Knicks love James Borrego. They really do. They interviewed him for the head coach job for a reason. And Borrego very much will be a good fit on Mike Brown's staff as well, until he ultimately will get hired for another head coaching job again at some point. The Knicks want him until then. The Knicks are good at bringing in assistant coaches, so I do believe they'll be able to get him. But guys, what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. I usually can read a lot better than that, but the sun was in my eyes for the majority of this video, and that did give me some trouble. I'm not going to lie. Have a great day, and go Knicks.